Welcome back to another week of Kernel at the Buzzer. We want to remind you that all the opinions of everyone on this podcast are the opinion of the speaker and the speaker alone and do not reflect the opinion of the entire Kernel. I'm your host, Colton Johnson, and this week we're taking a break from our regularly scheduled program talking about the Kentucky football team in favor of the Kentucky men's basketball team that just took down number 6 Duke last night. We're going to talk about them as well as the Kentucky women's basketball team, who is 3-0 as well. All that and more is coming up next. Welcome back to another week of Kernel at the Buzzer. This week I have a sole guest on another two-man podcast. Sir, introduce yourself.
I'm Kai McClelland, head of women's basketball, but also excited to talk about the men's game last night.
We will get to the women's team. Typically we're taking a break from our regularly scheduled football podcast because they do, in fact, not play. I was going to go a little rough, but they don't play the greatest level of football, and especially haven't as of recent, especially ahead of a game against Murray State. There's not much to talk about. So we're going to talk about this men's team first that somehow beat the number 6 ranked Duke Blue Devils in the State Farm Champions Classic. I know you watched it. Tell me what you saw.
Well, it's one of those games where it's like the TV doesn't go off. Everyone stops and watches the game. Like it doesn't matter what's going on. And it felt like that. I think seeing the arena, seeing the fans, like just seeing that it was half UK fans, the fact that, new coach, new beginnings, and you still have these fans completely committed to the sport of basketball. And then also just seeing, are they for real? Can they compete against the big dogs? And, even though you want to bring up the fact that Cooper's 17 years old and, this Duke team has a lot of freshmen, they're still number 6 in the nation. They're still Duke, a historic program, neutral court, all these factors going in, and you beat them straight up. Kentucky was the better team that night.
The one thing that I liked about watching that game, because it's the whole time, it was one of those games where it didn't matter if you were a UK fan, if you were a Duke fan. It was just an awesome basketball
100%,
game.
yeah.
I mean, looking at this box score, I know we always like to get into the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
You look at, obviously, the thing that stands out to you is Cooper Flagg. Led all scorers, 26 points, double-double with 12 rebounds, and he was efficient in every single aspect. Defensive, offensive, rebound, blocks. He was all over the court.
He had, oh my gosh, where he just pump faked and then just, who'd he shoot it over? Do you remember? Was it Amari?
Oh, no, it was Otega. I think I know, because it looked
elbow
like Otega.
to the face and just drained it. I'm like, dude, this kid's good.
I remember because I was sitting there watching with my friends, and I was like, there's no shred of an offensive foul there. No, you just put your elbow into the defender's face. But, it was a tough shot nonetheless. But you look at Kentucky's box score, obviously, Andrew Carr had a heck of a night, came out, hit those 2 big threes. Kentucky 5 for 5 from 3 to start.
Yeah.
And then you kind of look at the rest of this box score, and you don't really see what you thought you'd expect. Obviously, Otega, all around a good game. Amari Williams, 2 boards away from a double-double with 10 points. We can get into it further, but I didn't love his performance.
Yeah, could have been better.
But the big thing that stands out to you is Jackson Robinson.
Yeah. I mean, he was on the Wooden Award watch list. Yeah. So, coming with Pope from BYU, he's a graduate student. I'm thinking, this is the guy. This is supposed to be the guy that's having performances like Otega did, 15 points, 6 rebounds. It's kind of something I'm expecting from Jackson. Instead, we get 1 singular point.
No field goals.
Yeah, no field goals. 0 for 4, 0 for 3 from three-point land. It's not a good look for him. He's averaging 7 points on the year. But the thing is, he has been picked up by his teammates.
Yeah.
And if Kentucky's beating Duke without him scoring above 1 singular point and not making a field goal, then it just makes the future look so much brighter if you can get him going as well.
That was my next point. It was kind of how going into that locker room, especially for the players, for the coaches, and then for the fans.
Yeah.
Knowing that you just took down a top 10 team in the country that has what most people consider is the best player in the country.
Yeah.
And you did it without the guy that's perceived to be your best player. That's supposed to be like your go-to guy. But I love the thing that I love about it is that at no point in the game did they stop going to him. That's what like the ball. He struggled. You know, he got clamped up. You know, he had that one bad possession where he got put in the corner, but they never stopped going to him.
Yeah, it felt like, well, just like my inner Kentucky spirit, even though I'm not a Kentucky fan at all, was just kind of like, quit letting Duke go so fast. And but I would see that set come out, stop, slow, just completely stop moving, give the ball to Jackson Robinson to run to the opposite corner. So when you see that, it's like they know who their guy is, but, you know, he wasn't feeling it, and some nights it's going to happen, you know. So.
And how reassuring is it just knowing that, you know, that the nights where Jackson Robinson does have an off night, you know, you get 17 points from Andrew Carr, you get 15 points from Otega Owe, you get 8 out of Brandon and Kobe off the bench each, and it's just the well-roundedness of this team was more so put on display than any one player, and that's kind of amplified.
I think to go off of your point, like the biggest, I know there was a point after that Cooper Flag and one where they go directly to Andrew Carr in the post, and it's just like, is that really like Kentucky's game plan? Is to go to Andrew Carr in the post? Is that your number one like offensive option? But they went with it, dude, and won, matched it instantly. And it's like if you're getting that already and seeing those type of looks and just building confidence, you know, Andrew Carr's seen Duke. He played at Wake Forest for 4 years, so he's seen Duke. He's not scared of Duke. He's seen – I'm pretty sure he played against Zion. He's seen, you know, other bigs. So it's like he went straight at the freshman and won. Yeah. You build confidence with guys like that, and then J-Rob starts getting going. I mean, it's going to be great for Kentucky.
It's going to be a tough team to beat, man. I mean, now our very own sports editor Cole Park and reporter Tyler Russell, they were in Atlanta for this game. We were hoping to get one of them on this podcast, but they are still in transit, wishing them all the safest of travels. But I remember I was talking with Cole before the season started, and I was just expectations about this team in general. And he talked about not getting too extreme. And I think but the biggest negative narrative or the biggest negative thing that can come from this is like, yeah, you beat Duke. But going into every game now, even if it's a tough matchup, you know what's going to be said? Well, this is the team that beat Duke.
Yeah.
The first significant matchup of the year. The expectations are high now. There's no – and you hate to punish a team, I guess, for winning a really important, really significant basketball game. But I kind of worry from this point on if the breathing room that we allocated for Mark Pope when it comes to the mishaps, when it comes to the lapses in play and coaching and stuff, I wonder if that's like shrunk significantly.
I agree that it's going to be really bad because I'm sure you saw the stat. Mark Pope, Coach Cal, same amount of wins against Duke in their career. So it's just like you see that instantly and you're like, wow, you know, we're so back is all you're hearing. And I've seen so many social media posts about like, I even heard kids today on campus like just, we're going to the Final Four. Like, dude, like chill out. Like there's still 25 plus games to be played. Like chill out.
No, it's
but it's an early assessment. But at the same time, like you see that Kansas game against Michigan State that took, place before Kentucky. Kansas struggled. Yeah. They got in bad foul trouble. Michigan State, I'm pretty sure they shot 20 free throws. So
plenty, yeah.
I mean, you have the number one team in the nation struggling against Michigan State. Everybody's beatable in the sport of basketball, especially college basketball.
Especially now, yes.
So, I mean, you can't hold Kentucky to a pedestal, but they're definitely going to be abused the moment that they lose a game that should be a no-brainer.
Yes, and I feel like that's kind of the thing that sits in the back of your mind when you have that type of, especially like this early in the season. Because at some point, like, Kentucky's going to drop one to, they always drop one to Vanderbilt. But obviously, you have everything, you clean house after last year, and you hope that doesn't happen.
You got Tennessee game's probably going to be tight this year.
Yeah, both of them. Like, it's just, that you can't hide away from the fact, like, this is a great team. This is one of the, and it's an exciting team, and it was fun to watch in the sense that, like, it didn't matter who was on the floor, because I feel like last year, you felt that pop whenever Robin Reed came on the floor, like that was, right. But then they go off, and it's kind of like, well, what do we know? DJ's gonna dribble at the top of the key for 25 seconds and then take some stupid shot, like it. But with this game, it was like you were excited to see like each individual player, but
yeah,
I just
it's one of those things where it's like you said last year, it's like, yeah, let's go watch Robin Reed tonight. Now it's like, hey, let's go to the Wildcats game.
Yes.
And watch Mark Pope's, new team. And it's just like, I agree with you. That energy definitely feels different. It feels like, I mean, I'm not going to, obviously, like, everyone went to go see Anthony Davis, but still that 2012 team was exceptional. And you're not to ever compare them to the national championship team, but it's almost like that sort of vibe. Like, the Wildcats are here, man. Like, let's go watch them.
I know, it's like you don't want to like crap on people's parades, because people are happy because it's what this school is kind of needed. It's because I feel like in past years, the football team, obviously they had a good season, they got that 10-win season, but ever since 2012, like, none of the major sports have had anything to really celebrate other than the women's SEC championship back in whenever it was. But I kind of want to transition into some of the things, like, as you can talk about all the good things for years and years and years about this game, and I want to transition into the things that you might not have loved. What did you see last night that didn't really translate that well for you?
Well, number one, you already mentioned it earlier, but Amari Williams, you want to look at the straight up averages. He's averaging a double-double. He's a big center. He's great. But 3 for 12 from the field. I'm pretty sure, like, he had one turnover credited to his name, but I know for sure he had some sloppy handling that caused some turnovers. And then, missing the free throw line. Teams are going to take advantage of you if you can't make a free throw. It's going to be that Shaq hack, and it's just going to be like, well, late game situation, we're going to foul Amari because he can't make a free throw. That's something you got to work on. You got to address that in practice, like today, this morning, if you're Mark Pope, and fix that now before it becomes a problem in SEC play.
He did go 4 for 5, though, for the free throw line.
Oh, okay. Well, that one bricked off the side, and I saw it, and I was like, man, that looked really bad.
It also, like, I know you'll probably get into it, but, like Duke was not, everyone else, they were glued to on the three-point line. When Amari had it up top, they were not worried about him at all.
I also love Kerr. Love him, man. But chucking threes, like a crazy heat check for no reason, bro. Like, you're playing Duke, man. Like, you can't be taking these shots. Also didn't like, he went away from his game. And it's like, yeah, he has the heart. He was waving to the crowd. And, I saw an interview with him after, and this guy was calling him a defensive presence. And he was like, well, thank you, man. I'm not really a defensive presence, but it's like, I just play with energy. He had that same energy, but 0 assists when, we saw a 12-assist game from him, last time. So it's like, I want him to get in his roots of playmaking and realize that he's not Steph Curry. He doesn't need to be shooting these logo threes and, even if you've made 2 threes, man, like, chill out. Like, don't take that shot. Aside from that, we've touched on Jackson Robinson. I think the team looks solid. The real problem that you can get into is maybe mismatching. We saw Ortega could guard Cooper Flagg, but what happens when you have to face Kansas and you got Hunter Dickinson just in that paint? He's going to tear Andrew Carr up, in my opinion. And even Amari, if you have to face a real, true presence down in that paint, I don't think they're going to be able to handle it too well.
I do at times kind of worry about Amari's discipline. On both. He was really solid. Obviously, he was a multiple-time conference champion. Conference Defensive Player of the Year. Like, we know, like, typically the paint is his domain, and he doesn't block shots, he spikes them.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. But at times, I feel like there were moments when he would catch a ball and either it was in transition or he would run off. He'd be at the top, and he'd pass it off, and he'd kind of slide off and get it back, and he'd have like an open lane. But there'd be a guy at the rim to wait, like waiting for him, and most of the time it was I'm going to butcher his name, Kaman Malawak, the 7'2",
Sure.
South Sudan, heck of a player. He had some cramp issues last night, but he was always waiting down there for him. And Amari, like no hesitation, would just go down and just throw his shoulder and just chuck up this, like, I don't even know.
Unprecedented. Like, you don't take that shot. Like,
No,
you gotta be confident in what you do, but also you gotta be smart with what you do.
Yes.
Can't put up a shot like that.
And like you said, I also, because I know they came out right off tip, they had Andrew Carr guarding Cooper Flagg.
I thought speed instantly.
Yes.
Like, that's what came to my mind. I'm like Carr's 6'11", you know.
Yes.
He's a big old boy. Like, you know, he's a spacing big, but Cooper is downhill. Probably, like, think about Cooper's game. He hustles. If he misses a shot, it's the worst shot he's ever took, and it's off the side of the backboard. I guarantee you he's going to make sure it, you know, he's diving out of bounds for it at least, or getting in there, and he'll get a foul before, you know, he looks bad missing a shot.
And
so
going into that
like,
final stretch. Sorry, you finish it though.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, instantly I thought that speed, like, he's going to blow right past Carr.
Like you said, Otego is the better matchup the whole way.
Yeah, and we saw that late. Game on the line. Otega's on him. Boom. Still rebound over him like he's small and not the number one prospect in basketball.
Yes.
So I agree. Otega from the jump.
Now, another thing. Now, I don't really know how much attention was brought to it because I don't think that there was, obviously with how close of a game it was, I don't think anybody expected to see Travis Perry or Trent Noah last night.
No.
But I do kind of wonder if, like, what type of game has to occur, how a game has to play out for them to be implemented, because from the way that I'm thinking about it now, it's kind of has to be like, oh, well, we probably, like in a cushion game or when, you know, it's kind of a more comfortable game, obviously.
Yeah.
But
I'll give you a great example. It's at home. We'll say it's Auburn or somebody, you know, that's, you know, got Broom on the squad, and they're, you know, pretty darn good. You need that pop from the crowd. Or, you know, Jackson Robinson's struggling.
mm-hmm.
Let's throw Trent Noah in there for 3 minutes. He bangs you a three and gets a big stop on defense. That place is going crazy. Kentucky's got the game. I mean, maybe that's a good situation that Pope may draw up.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like Robinson has these intangibles, the athleticism that maybe Noah doesn't have, or Travis Perry.
Mm-hmm.
So these freshmen, it's not going to be the same Rob Reed case. Like,
No.
we're never going to see them get instantly subbed in probably, you know, 4 minutes into the game like we were last year. I don't ever think that's going to be the case. Like you said, cushion game, you know.
Yeah.
Let the fans enjoy, you know, these Kentucky homegrown boys for a minute and then, you know, send them off with a win. I'd love if all of a sudden they start popping and they get those bench minutes, but you know, with Kerr and Kobe coming off the bench and performing so well, I don't see another guard fitting in that rotation.
It seems as if now, obviously, first significant game, things are going to change. People are going to get hurt. That's
a big thing.
Now, one of the things that kind of stuck out to me, Cooper Flagg going into the second half, 0 turnovers.
Right.
Had one in the scrum that was the first 18 minutes of the second half, and there's no surprise if Dukes, they go down late. Who are they putting the ball in the hands of? They put it in Cooper's.
Yeah.
Goes down, Otega steal. Kentucky goes down, gets more. Go back down. Amari traps him in the corner. He loses the ball. His hand falls on the baseline, out of bounds. Now, from what you saw, shocking. Cooper Flagg fumbled twice in the final couple minutes. Showed his youth a little bit.
Yes and no, because as of current, right now in this moment, you can say Cooper sold. He had those 2 turnovers late. He's the star. He needs to be better.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when he's playing at North Carolina later in the year and he's playing in the ACC tournament. He's playing in March Madness. He ain't going to make that mistake again. I promise you he won't. John Shire will make sure he doesn't. And this is the number one thing you can learn from is making a mistake in a big game.
Yeah.
Not going to say costing your team the game because he's the reason they're even at that point.
Yes.
But
yes.
the reason Duke lost the game was because Cooper Flagg had those 2 turnovers. And he didn't box out.
Yes.
To get that rebound, too. That would have one possession game. Duke could have scored there and sent it to OT. So Cooper
yes.
will learn from it. In this moment, yes, he showed his youth. But I think in the end run of things, it was a whole lot better than it is worse.
Something that I have not ever gotten to say, we are going to transition to the other undefeated basketball team at this university, the women's basketball team led by the glorious Kenny Brooks. Sir, you've been covering this team.
Yeah.
It's been your thing. What have you seen so far from them, especially kind of highlighting more so their most recent matchup against the Wofford Terriers?
Balance is the key word for this team, man. They have the height. They have the shooting. They have, I've seen some times where they lacked on defense, but they're still gaining back. They're still getting those rebounds. They're diving on the floor. Like, this team has heart. It's so new. And when you react to it, you hear, like, fans, like, bursting for these, like, loose ball plays, and it's great. There's just a livelihood going on. There's a new culture there. And it feels every time I've gone to that press conference afterwards, big smiles on the face. It feels so confident. It feels like, we're going to do our thing, and whoever's in our way, just watch out.
Yeah.
And it's said with, like, Kenny Brooks after the NKU game. He said, they won pretty handsomely.
Yeah, it was a comfortable
win.
It
was a very big win, and he said, don't bring the popcorn to film. Like, that was how he opened it up. And I'm like, man, like, this guy's, like, serious.
He's
like,
critical.
He knows what he's doing. And they fixed that. Like, Deja Lawrence was the main story. We were really thinking about, like, we wanted her to score the ball a little more. Like, we want to see some more from her. Comes out against Wofford, 5 for 5 from the field, 15 points in the first quarter, just like that. And it's like you're seeing that everybody can score, everybody can pass, everybody can play defense. It's a great balanced team.
Anything you haven't loved so far?
Haven't loved those defensive breakdowns. My reporter Josh Smith has been really good about analyzing that for me, and I'm seeing what he's seeing. You leave someone open at the top of the key. Yeah, maybe Northern Kentucky isn't making that shot, but Tennessee's making that shot. South Carolina's making that shot. Georgia's making that shot.
Yep.
So that's the number one thing I'm seeing. But the reason I bring up that Kenny Brooks quote that he said, don't bring the popcorn to the film room, he means business. I'm 1,000% sure he's covered that. And he's like, why are you standing at the free throw line letting someone shoot a wide open three? Like,
yeah.
That's the main thing that stuck out to me, though, is just those little defensive breakdowns that shouldn't be happening.
Now, looking at, obviously, we're highlighting the most recent game with the Wofford Terriers. Yeah. Clara Strack. That name's been sticking. Like, I've very seldom looked at a box score from this team and not seen a good performance from her.
Yeah, absolute machine. She's had back-to-back double-doubles. She's averaging 17 and 11, but not just 17 and 11. 5 assists and 3 blocks as well. She almost had a triple-double against NKU. She's been in Brooks' system now, and coming to UK with him, it's quite obvious, like, she's, like, who you're getting the ball to. First play of the game against NKU that I watched, it was rotate, pass to the wing, bounce pass into Claire in the paint. And instant layup. First bucket of the night. Barbecue chicken, man.
Barbecue chicken.
They're playing through her. 6'5" big. There's not much out there that's 6'5" and can score, pass, play defense. She's a machine, man.
Well, the height with this team has been just that's the hard adjustment for me, because when I covered this team last year, the height was Aja Petty. It was Janae Walker, but they had Janae Walker. She occasionally came in, but everything was through everything was through Asia Petty. And now this year, and back then Asia Petty 6'2", 6'3". They have 6'7" in Clara Silva, 6'5" in Clara Strack. Amelia Hassett. I mean, I don't even know how tall she is.
6'3".
Yeah, she's
Tiani
not short.
6'4".
Like there's more height in this team that I've ever seen on any assembled Kentucky women's basketball roster ever. I do wonder.
Okay.
At any point, because I've seen I've seen once where they had Clara and Clara in, and maybe Tiani or Amelia, and as impractical as playing all four of them would be.
Yeah.
I just wonder if Kenny will ever kind of flirt with it because of how well Clara can handle the ball, especially how well Amelia can shoot, more so.
Yeah. It's interesting because Amelia has not shot the ball well the past 2 games.
Yeah.
And, seeing Georgia shooting 34 from the field, your star point guard not shooting well either, there's going to be a time for that, maybe when you have to go all bigs and the shots just aren't falling. Mm-hmm. But I also think it's going to come down to a condition standpoint as well. You want Georgia and Deja in the game because those are your fifth-year guards. Maybe your freshman, center coming off the bench can't hang in that starting lineup.
Yeah.
And can't go, a 6'7" big. She can't go the whole first half without a break.
Yeah.
So I think the idea of her rotating in is perfect right now. That will adjust, timely with injuries or maybe even, someone, just completely underperforming and, game planning for the next team. But I think right now it's working perfect, and you just need to keep rocking with it.
So going into this Louisville matchup, because it's kind of their test, it's kind of their first test, what are you expecting?
I'm expecting the crowd to be involved. Mm-hmm. I've seen the stands gradually start to fill up over 3 games, and I'm expecting that battle of the bluegrass. It's got to be the talk. You got to get the fans there. You got to have them involved. From a team aspect, stick to the bread and butter. Get it going in the paint. Make sure you box out how you've been. I mean, I'm pretty sure they've beat every team so far in the rebounding category by 15 or more. Mm-hmm. And you just have to stay on that track. I mean, you get Georgia and Amelia going as well, shooting the ball how it's talked like they haven't been shooting well past 2 games. You get that going, stick with your bigs, stick with the playmaking that's going on already. I think they go in there and just beat Louisville.
Confident they get it done?
Yeah. Can't lie. Louisville is fast, and I'm worried that Kentucky may not be as fast. So I think they have to slow this pace down a little, play to their roots. That's why I bring up the fans. Like, let this crowd get into it. Mm-hmm. Keep it slow. Get in your sets. Take your time. It is the first-ranked game of the year, so maybe there's some jitters there, some expectations. But I think you just stick with what you're doing already.
Yeah.
Everything should be fine.
Closing thoughts going into the coming weeks for this women's team. What should fans expect, and what should they be looking for?
Well, 3 ranked games the next 5 games. You got number 18 Louisville, number 23 Illinois, number 14 UNC. You got to get 2 or 3 of those if you want to compete this year. If you're going to be a brand, if you're going to, be in the talks with the men's basketball team as well, you're going to make a name for yourself nationally. You got to win these games. You got to show up. That's my main point, thinking about it. I want this Kentucky team to be respected in the SEC. They're preseason, they're middle of the line. They'll be all right. Kenny Brooks, he'll do a fine job. First year, no, let's exceed these expectations. Let's go into SEC play and say our program's back.
Very nice. The women's team will tip off their next game against the Louisville Cardinals this coming Saturday with tip set for 6 p.m. The men's team slow it down for a bit next couple of weeks. Don't want to call them softball pitches. You can lose any game, but, if you have Lipscomb, Jackson State, Western Kentucky, and Georgia State as the next 4 games, you kind of expect.
And Clemson, right after that, SEC, ACC, they struggled with EKU last night, man.
So you're expecting 8-0.
Yeah,
expecting 8-0.
That's what I'm saying.
We'll be looking forward to many great coverage from Cole and his crew for the men's basketball team and Kai and his crew for women's basketball. Now that is all from us for Kernel at the Budget for this week. We will see you guys next week. we want to thank you for tuning into this week's episode of Kernel at the Buzzer. We'll be back with plenty more next week after Kentucky football takes on the Murray State Racers in a long shot attempt to maintain bowl eligibility. Kentucky women's basketball also takes on the Louisville Cardinals on Saturday. But until then, I want to encourage you to head on over to KYKernel.com or KYKernel Sports on Twitter or X for all of your UK athletic coverage. And until then, I've been Colton Johnson, and we'll see you next time.